The year has just started, and already I have 2 clips of Labour MPs humiliating themselves on live TV. This trend continues, and today we have Victoria Derbyshire Grill Labour MP Stephen Kinnock over the Prime Minister's comments and grooming gang scandal in general. The thing is, he doesn't answer a single question that the interviewer is asking him, despite being called out multiple times for not answering the question. Just a heads up, it's extremely painful to watch. We will watch and react to this in today's video, whilst also going over all of the latest news from up and down the country. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and join our fast-growing community. Just a quick one to say we have new Make Britain Great, again t-shirts available on our store. Go grab them now. They are available at britishstand.com or check the link in the description. So yeah, have a watch of this Muppet.
Got the Alexis J report with a set of very solid recommendations.
Are people jumping on the far-right bandwagon if they want a national independent inquiry?
I think those people need to explain why we need another review and inquiry. We've had the local reviews and inquiries. We've had the J reviews and inquiries. Let's get on and implement those. Of course, we monitor, we're vigilant. If we see that the implementation of those measures is not working for some reason, then okay, yeah, we may need to go back to the drawing board. But let's get on with what's on the table. And it's frankly shameful that those recommendations have been there since 2022 and they've never been implemented.
We've spoken to a victim today who says she was sexually exploited as a teenager in Telford. She wants a national inquiry because she believes it will hold people accountable in the way previous inquiries haven't. Is she jumping on the far-right bandwagon?
I think that the J review was very clear that they will put institutions in place, Child Protection Authority.
You're ignoring my question again.
Those institutions will, I believe, deliver on what that young person, that victim of abuse is calling for. I believe that the J inquiry, we believe as a government, they will deliver on what is needed.
Is she jumping on the far-right bandwagon?
Then of course we need to be very vigilant and make sure that we're putting the measures in place that work.
Is she jumping on the far-right bandwagon, yes or no?
It's heartbreaking to see these awful, sickening cases of abuse. We've got to take rapid action to stop them, to have justice and accountability for people.
I'm not sure why
like
you can't answer my question.
I think that people who are victims of this abuse are well within their rights to call for all of the measures that need to be taken.
So she's not jumping on a far-right bandwagon?
It's our job as a government. I don't think that that's what the Prime Minister was saying. I think the Prime Minister was...
To be fair, Victoria Derbyshire almost challenged the establishment narrative there. So close. I didn't expect that from the BBC. Let's take a look at how people reacted. Robert Jenrick replied to this simply by saying, "An utterly shameful non-answer from Labour." This user said, "Labour don't have the answers, the same as the cons didn't. That's why we need reform." This user said, "They continue on stall on this subject, almost as if they're trying to cover something up." This user said, "Yet another car crash interview by a Labour minister. Can't answer simple questions." Michael said, "Politicians who don't answer questions need to have some sort of reprimand or punishment. It's simply not democratic to swerve questions. Whether they're trivial or complex, you're paid to serve our country. Give the citizens some respect." Joe said, "All presenters now must just shame them and tell them to leave the studio if they do not answer on the second asking. Choosing a career as a politician has consequences, and this should be a sackable offence." What are your thoughts on this interview? Let me know in the comments. In other news, Robert Jenrick has accused Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer of making an outrageous smear after Starmer linked calls for a public inquiry into grooming gangs with far-right activism. In a press conference on Monday, Starmer criticised politicians and activists for spreading lies and misinformation about grooming gangs, accusing them of jumping on the far-right bandwagon. The comments sparked backlash from Jenrick, who condemned the Prime Minister's stance during an interview, claiming it reflects the same attitude that got us into this mess in the first place. Jenrick described Starmer's remarks as a gross insult to millions of people seeking justice for victims. Highlighting the scale of the issue, he said, "Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, of vulnerable young girls have been tortured and raped in towns and cities across our country in the most horrific, evil manner. He further criticized what he called a culture of turning a blind eye for fear of political correctness, which he claimed had allowed grooming gangs to operate unchecked for decades. Jenrick argued that Starmer's comments perpetuate this mindset, undermining efforts to confront the issue head-on. Jenrick pointed to previous initiatives under the Conservative government, including Theresa May's commissioning of reviews led by Professor Alexis Jay, which first shed light on the extent of grooming gang crimes. He also praised more recent measures, such as Suella Braverman's creation of a task force that led to 550 arrests and protected 4,500 victims. Suella Braverman drafted laws to make it mandatory for public officials to report suspicions of child sexual abuse and to ensure longer sentences for grooming gang perpetrators, Jenrick explained. Labour must now take these laws forward and deliver justice. He also called for tougher measures against foreign national offenders involved in grooming gangs. "I have long advocated for whole life sentences for these perpetrators," he said, "and if they are foreign nationals, they should be deported immediately. No ifs, no buts." Jenrick criticised the lack of accountability among officials who failed to act, stating, "Not a single one has been prosecuted so far." Jenrick urged the government to launch a full national public inquiry, arguing that past investigations were too narrow in scope, covering only 6 towns, despite evidence of grooming gang activity in at least 50 towns. He described the issue as probably the biggest racially aggravated scandal of its kind in modern history. "This is a massive scandal," Jenrick said. In some other news, homebuyers are preparing for significant challenges as new stamp duty rules come into effect on April 1st, 2025, adding thousands of pounds to the cost of purchasing a home. The changes will lower the tax-free threshold for first-time buyers, meaning many will have to pay the tax for the first time. Home movers will also face higher costs, with reduced thresholds increasing the financial burden. The looming deadline has already sparked a rush among buyers, eager to complete purchases before the rules change. Amanda Bryden from Halifax noted a surge in activity, with many bringing forward their plans to get onto the property ladder sooner. The market saw a flurry of demand in late 2024, despite a small dip in house prices, as buyers raced to avoid the higher costs. Experts warn that these changes could make buying a first home even harder, particularly in expensive areas where affordability is already stretched. Karen Noy from Quilter cautioned that adding extra financial pressure may slow transactions and impact the wider housing market. As the deadline approaches, buyers and sellers are expected to act quickly. But beyond April, the market could see slower growth, with buyers seeking more affordable homes or negotiating harder to manage costs. For many, the new rules highlight the urgency of acting now to avoid even tougher conditions ahead. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British political content. Thank you, take care, goodbye.